I think many will agree with me when I say Halo has one of the best soundtracks out there. Not just in gaming, but in general. Halo's soundtrack is really what got me into soundtracks. And I'm going to be bold and say that there is not one bad Halo soundtrack album. I mean, if we're talking about the games, because the show soundtrack kind of sucks. But anyway, today I wanted to go through and rank each game's soundtrack and pick my favorite track from each game. Let me tell you, this is going to be a very subjective list. I will very likely cause a lot of people some anger, but once again, this is subjective. My taste in music isn't going to be the same as everyone else's. And also, I'm not exactly an expert on music, so that might shine through on this list, because I don't know all the, the technicalities, the music lingo, all that good stuff. I just know what sounds good to me and what sounds bad to me, which with Halo, a lot of it doesn't really sound bad to me. So anyway, with that being said, let's get the show on the road. Oh, and if you want to listen to the songs I recommend and other Halo tracks, go down to the description and I'll have linked my favorite Halo soundtracks playlist on Spotify, so that you can listen to it and check it out. Of course, you don't have to, but I recommend it. And one more thing, we are only going to be doing the game soundtracks. I would include like Forward Unto Dawn and I can't really think of any others, but I know there are some other soundtracks that aren't on this list, and that I also have included in my Spotify playlist. So if you want to check them out, they're there. But other than that, we just working with the games. All right, now onto the list. All right, number 14 at the bottom of the list is Halo Spartan Strike. Now don't get me wrong, the soundtrack is still very bueno, but something's got to be at the bottom. Some of the highlights include Legacy Unbound, the main theme, and Careful Steps, and my favorite of the album being Epic Evolution Reborn. Just the whole album is just a very lighthearted and well-made listening experience that I even still recommend. Like, seriously, I recommend everything on this list. Sure, it may not be at the top, but it's definitely got some highlights. Go listen to it. Number 13 is likely going to upset some people because it is Halo Reach. Guys, I'm sorry, but this soundtrack does not appeal to me as much as the others on this list. Like, listen, it's still a good soundtrack, and it definitely fits the vibe of the game, and Marty O'Donnell is king, don't get me wrong. But just compared to others on this list, I don't know, it just doesn't have the juice. Like, okay, when I first listened to it a while back, it, wasn't offensive at all. I enjoyed it. But I think the more I listened to it, I also played Halo Reach a lot with friends, and just sitting in the menu listening to that music over and over, I feel like compared to other games where I did the same thing and I listened to the music over and over, I feel like the music got kind of annoying in comparison to the other Halo games where the music was still just as good as ever, if that makes sense. There's definitely some highlights, like every album, those being the Overture, the Tip of the Spear, and though it's only a small part of a larger track that I don't care for, it's called Engaged. It definitely slaps. It is part of Winter Contingency. But if we're picking a track named in the actual soundtrack, it's got to be Both Ways. Both Ways and the Both Ways remix. I don't really notice a difference between those two, so I just throw them together. Number 12 is Halo Spartan Assault. If we're looking at a tier list, those first two would be in the kind of bueno tier, and this is the first in the sexy tier. This is a very boppin' soundtrack. It holds much of the charm of the mainline games. Some of my favorites are Finishing the Fight, Legacy, and Bridge Too Far. But, personally the best is Rising Legacy to me. And I only first checked this album out because Late Night Gaming, the YouTube channel, recommended it in one of his videos, and it did not disappoint. It's a very beautiful soundtrack, and it still holds up really well. So really quickly, these next few I tend to move around a lot, and I'm still pretty indecisive about where exactly they should go, so they're all placed pretty on par with each other. Just keep that in mind. So if you get upset and you're like, oh, why is this a little bit lower than this one, that might be the reason why. But that's the list in general. So next up at number 11, we have Halo Wars. I love this soundtrack. It packs so much charm and personality into each track while perfectly resembling what Halo sounds like. It's a pretty chill vibe, you know. I could listen to it in the car and just always have a good time. The Six-Armed Robbing Suite, Through Your Hoops, and Insignificantia they're among some of the phenomenal. But my personal favorite is the main theme, The Spirit of Fire. It's just such a good track, you know. It's a very good soundtrack overall. Definitely recommend. Now moving on to number 10 is, oh boy, okay, guys, I promise I'm not trolling with this list, but it's Halo Combat Evolved and Halo Combat Evolved Anniversary. I'm combining the two because there are very minor differences, at least that I noticed. It'll be the same for Halo 2 and its anniversary album. But now, Halo Combat Evolved, the start of it all. Why do I have it this low? Well, don't forget that this is still in the sexy tier, so I wouldn't consider it low in general. It's just low on this list. It holds up so remarkably well though. So many brilliant themes were crafted, like On a Pale Horse, Covenant Dance, and the main theme, the latter being my favorite. The music of this game is truly something special that really set Halo apart from many other games. So no, I don't hate this soundtrack. If you guys think that's what's going on here, no, I like the other ones a lot more. So moving on to number 9 is in fact Halo 5 Guardians, another one that will actually get me murdered. Why do I have it this high? I like it. Like, Halo 5 has a very good soundtrack in my mind, and though it's not very Halo sounding, that's not what I'm ranking this list by. If that's what I was ranking this list by, it'd be a very different looking list. You know, there's for sure a few stinky boyos in there, don't get me wrong, but don't forget all of the amazing tracks like Warrior World, Walk Softly, Crypt, Covenant Prayers, and my favorite, The Trials. And that's only naming several. I know all of the hate that this soundtrack gets, especially for being associated with one of the most hated Halo games, but I think it's a little overhated. Just above that, at number 8, might surprise some, it's Halo 3 ODST. Some would advocate for this jazzy soundtrack to be a bit higher, but I think it fits very nicely in the middle of this list. It's of course very boppin', but my reason for its placement this low will be the same for everything on this list. I just clicked to some of the other albums more. The whole vibe of this soundtrack is just superb, however, and I can't stress enough to go give this one a listen. This is a very good soundtrack. Some of its highlights include Neon Night, Skyline, and my personal favorite, Finale. Now, number 7 might surprise you guys. It's Halo Wars 2. Caleb, have you gone mad? No, my friend, I like Halo Wars 2. The soundtrack is so intense and in your face, and I love it. It's not for everyone, but I think it's quite slept on. It, like a lot of the 343 games, is not always Halo sounding, but I do think it suits the game very well. Once again, some of the highlights are It's Done, Amethyst, Symbiotic, and my favorite being Barren, which honestly stands among some of the best Halo soundtracks for me. Let me know if you guys want a top 10 Halo soundtracks, by the way, because I will do that. Number 6 is a little on the odd side because it's Halo Infinite's multiplayer soundtrack. Yes, I'm making this separate to the campaign soundtrack because, well, it sounds like a different soundtrack and it's got its own album. The multiplayer soundtrack is sick. It really captures the essence of Halo in an entirely new way, and I'm so glad they went this hard on it. What is a Spartan and The Precipice of Power are among some of my favorites. Now, number 5 is moving on up to the ultra mega sexy tier, and it is the legendary Halo 2 and its anniversary soundtracks. Guys, there are so many memorable tracks here, such as Follow, Peril, Impend, Arise and Valor, the Halo-themed Scorpion mix, and my favorite, A Spartan Rises. This soundtrack tops and advances Halo Combat Evolved soundtrack perfectly. I'm gonna be honest, rock has never really been my thing, and when I first heard this soundtrack, I was just kinda meh on it. I was a little turned off, if I'm being honest, but re-listening to it really made me realize just how masterful it is. It's really good. Number 4 is an even more legendary game, I mean, depending on who you're talking to. It's Halo 3. Now, I know everyone is going to be scratching their heads asking what the heck could be at the top 3 if this isn't in it. I suppose I'll get to that, but yeah, Halo 3 is the first Halo soundtrack that I ever paid attention to. This is where my obsession with the soundtrack started. More specifically, when I heard the final Warthog Run theme play, I was all in. It led me to discover all the music this game had to offer, like This Is the Hour, Farthest Outpost, and my personal favorite, One Final Effort. This right here is musical perfection. Martin O'Donnell is by far one of the best composers out there. Objectively, this right here is one of the best soundtracks of all time, but subjectively, it remains at number 4 because at number 3 is, well, not actually a mainline Halo game, but it actually is a mod called SPV3. If you're a Halo fan, I'm sure you've heard of it. SPV3 is a mod for Combat Evolved that really stands on its own, and that is helped by all the renditions done by Japhet Meza. Guys, I would not have included this soundtrack if it wasn't as excellent as some of these other Halo soundtracks. Seriously, listen to it. Particular Justice, The Will of the Prophets, and The Greatest Journey main theme are definitely some of the best. At least listen to The Greatest Journey. That one got me in the feels. So, is it crazy to have this album this high? Perhaps it is. I just cannot stress how amazing it is, and this is, just the best way to get it on your guys' radar, putting it this high. Go and listen to it, it's really good. Now moving on to our second place, Halo Infinite. Guys, I don't think there's ever been a soundtrack where I think almost every song slaps. Okay, almost every, but this album's got it. Seriously, Halo Infinite surprised me. I did not expect it to be as dope as it was. I mean, I was hopeful, but didn't expect it. It got me into a lot of the other works made by the guys who made this one. Gareth Coker, Joel Korlitz, and Curtis Schweitzer, however you say those names. I'm sorry if I butchered them. Them guys can cook, let me tell ya. There are so many awesome tracks. Test of Metal, Bracken Escape, and my personal favorite, Judgment. Guys, if you haven't yet, like literally every other soundtrack on this list, go and listen to it. It's so good. But last, and certainly not least, at number 1, we have Halo 4. Now guys, I can explain. Let me explain. Yes, it is one of the least Halo sounding albums on this list, but it is by far the most unique. So many people hate on this music for this game, and it pains me to see. It hurts because this album is really good. I know it's not for everyone, but it's really good. Now, granted, it's like, not every song in every album is going to be a winner, and it's the same for this. But there's still so many good ones like Mantis, Revival, Nemesis, To Galaxy, Solace, and my favorite track of all time, not just in this album or in Halo, but of all time, it is 117. Halo 3 is why I got into soundtracks. 117 is the reason I kept searching for more and more. If you listen to anything on this list, listen to 117. You Halo fans watching this may disagree, but I feel like it is by far one of the best and most goosebump-inducing things to listen to. It is so great. But anyway, that's the list. Here's a tier list if it helps you guys get a better visual grasp on it. But yeah, please keep it civil in the comments. I know how passionate Halo fans can get. Heck, I'm one of them. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you guys have a wonderful day. And go outside, go enjoy some games, go enjoy some music, go live life, But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Really means the world to me, you guys just watching my videos. Peace out. Love you guys.